What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Into the Stands, episode 15, where we have a lot to talk about. Super Bowl, right? That happened this past Sunday. Also, NBA first half, and a couple questions from our fans. So we got a lot to get into, as it's February. What's today's date? February. Sorry, February.
February 16th.
I
That's
believe,
how we're starting. I love it.
in 2 weeks it'll be March, where we'll then look for March Madness, right? And
Spring training.
baseball, spring trading, World Baseball Classic. So, as we get closer to March, we still got a lot to talk about today at the end of February. Super Bowl, Chiefs won. My prediction was very wrong, but I was bold with it, and I understood that it was very out there. It was very it was a real bold take, right? I had predicted there was gonna be a blowout from the Eagles, but Patrick Mahomes' magic was real. And listen, I can't say I'm mad about being wrong about my prediction. I simply had a feeling. I simply had a feeling we were gonna get an Eagles blowout, and we didn't, and that's totally fine. And I like I said, I'm not complaining whatsoever. I am elated that the Philly Eagles lost, because that's really what it is. I could care less if the Chiefs won. It's more about the Eagles losing that makes me happy. So why don't you guys take it away?
So let's get into it. So first of all, obviously, congratulations to the Kansas City Chiefs, their first Super Bowl in franchise history, and it really was an all-time game. I think we can all agree. I mean, you saw Patrick Mahomes get hurt in that second quarter, and at that point, I really thought, are the Eagles going to win the Super Bowl beating Chad Henne? Are they really going to have one of the easiest runs to a Super Bowl we've ever seen? But Patrick Mahomes cemented his legacy with this game, absolutely. Before last week we were doing our Super Bowl preview, one of my main points was that if the Chiefs are going to win this game, it is going to be because of number 15. He is, I think already now this win cemented him as the face of the league, the best player in the league undoubtedly, and already a future all-time great. I mean, there's a definite argument that could really be made that Patrick Mahomes is already a top 5 quarterback of all time. I think that's a true discussion we could really have. You look at what the guy has achieved at 27 years old, becoming the first player since 1999 to win both an MVP and Super Bowl MVP in the same year. I think the first player ever to lead the league in passing yards and win Super Bowl MVP. Just absolutely remarkable. And you saw in that second half, the Chiefs did not punt the ball at all. They just went down the field, scored a touchdown every single possession, and here they are, Super Bowl champions. But if there's one thing I have to say about this game, at least from the Eagles side, I am very impressed with Jalen Hurts. Phenomenal performance, and I think he really showed that he is a guy who deserves to be paid and is a guy who is going to be the Eagles quarterback of the future for a long time. As a Giants fan, I have to say, though, sure, the Eagles lost, but I'm going to be scared having to see Hurts twice a year for the next 10 years. So shout out to them. Shout out to them for having a great season. But ultimately, like I said, the story still is Patrick Mahomes. This is a rebuilding year for the Kansas City Chiefs. We saw how the moves that were made in the AFC in the offseason. Obviously, losing Tyreek Hill, you think they're going to take a step back. They had that playoff loss to Cincinnati in the AFC Championship game. And you saw across the AFC, the Bills went out and got Von Miller. You saw the Bengals go out and improve their offensive line, trying to go back to the Super Bowl. You saw Dolphins, yes, the Dolphins with Bradley Chubb getting Tyreek Hill. You saw the Chargers even go out and get Khalil Mack. You saw the Broncos try Russell Wilson and fail horribly. You saw even the Colts maybe try to switch Carson Wentz for Matt Ryan. All these teams felt like the AFC was wide open. They all felt like they had a chance. But what happened was Kansas City is established themselves. They are the New England Patriots. They are dominating this conference, and they're going to be for a very long time. And the sky's really the limit, right? Because you figure if this is supposed to be a rebuilding year for Kansas City, what's going to look like when they consider to be the contenders that are considered to be the favorites? I mean, as long as you have Patrick Mahomes under center, this team is always going to run. And, you look at the stat line from the Super Bowl. It wasn't the most impressive performance from Mahomes. He threw for under 200 yards, had 3 touchdowns. But you just knew the game was tilting in Kansas City's favor because the Eagles are very known for being a run-dominant team. They run the football a lot. They almost doubled up them on time of possession, but yet it was still like a 5-point game. It was still a 3-point game late into that third and fourth quarter. So you just knew Kansas City was going to stay in that game. And probably the most remarkable accomplishment in this game, the fact that Kansas City Chiefs gave up 0 sacks to the Philadelphia Eagles team. If you remember, the Eagles were chasing the 1985 and 1984 Bears for the most sacks in league history. And I think really what you saw is that it doesn't matter the defense that you throw at Patrick Mahomes. People may have stated the Philly defense was overrated. They got their first real test. But the fact of the matter still remains that Philly defense is one of the best in the league, and Patrick Mahomes tore it apart. I mean, there's not much this guy can't do. And I think that now with Tom Brady retired, the NFL has its new face, and I'm just really excited to see where it goes. So congratulations to the Kansas City Chiefs, and shout out for the Philadelphia Eagles for having a great year.
As the game went on, I got to watch a little bit of the game with Colin.
we both agreed that over the course of the game that Travis Kelce, we did say a little bit towards the middle of the first quarter that Travis Kelce needed to be an impact, and then eventually went off a little bit. But a player that I mentioned him last week that had a solid game was you look at the Eagles wide receivers. Like you said, they ran the ball out, they did, but both AJ Brown and Devontae Smith had 90+ yards, and they are a run heavy team, which is crazy to me. Now, granted, the run game was awful with not named Jalen Hurts. It didn't like Miles Sanders, Boston Scott. Who's their other running back? Kenneth Gainwell did not impress me whatsoever. Now that being said, Kansas City has found a diamond in the rough with Isaiah Pacheco. I think Isaiah Pacheco is phenomenal. I mean, coming out of his 7th round, this year's 7th round. What is with the 7th round this year? Like, we got Brock Purdy and Isaiah Pacheco, two of the more, I'm gonna say like underrated. I'll call them underrated for now. Players coming out of that draft class, and two of the better players from that draft class, possibly for if you look statistically. So I think Isaiah Pacheco had a great game as well. He had a touchdown somewhere. But Mahomes, I mean, I don't know what to say. I don't know what's not said. Like, he's fantastic. I don't want to play him. I think the Jets do play him next year, which is going to be very unfortunate because that will probably be a guaranteed loss, whoever they put at quarterback. But besides the fact, you look at the Eagles still. I mean, Devontae Smith had a great game. He had over 60 receiving yards in the first half. He a little down in production. He had a catch that was called back, which, I mean, we both watched. Everyone here watched that play. It was 50-50 all the way. Once you see the ball hit the ground, any part of the ball hit the ground, it's an incomplete pass. So I think the call was right. The one call, I think people have gone on and on about this, and it's one of those moments in the Super Bowl where, like, did the league do the right thing with that penalty at the end?
I think we get to a big detail coming up.
I think I'll start with this first. It was right. I hate to say it, it was right. There are some moments where you can say, and I've seen this so many times this year, where you can say, let that play go, let them play. And there have been moments where very soft things have been called for extensive penalties. Tom Brady getting touched is a 15-yard penalty, apparently, when he plays the Falcons. When you saw that game when they were trying to make that come from behind win. There's been moments over the course of the year like that had controversial penalties and were wrong. You go all the way back to week 1 with Cleveland and Baltimore when someone jumped. Apparently, there was an offside and it was called the false start. Cleveland misses a field goal. Week 2. Cleveland misses a field, or week 2 or 3. I don't even remember at this point. And they missed a field goal and lost. You look at moments like that, and then you go to this. James Bradbury actually was accountable for the action that he did. And that's a lot. In that moment, like, did he grab the jersey? Yeah. Could they have not thrown a flag? Of course they couldn't have thrown a flag. But at the end of the day, the ref saw something a little bit more than usual. And he's like, yeah, you prevented him from running the route in an illegal manner. It's a flag. And I totally agree with it. Now, in the situation, could he have not thrown it? Sure. But it shouldn't really. I think when you're officiating, being a ref in another sport, it doesn't matter what the stage is. Make the call. I think that's the best way to call. Make the freaking call. I mean, I think it's the best way to say it. No,
we gotta make a t-shirt.
Gotta make a t-shirt out of that. I mean, Chris, what do you think about that? I mean, make the call.
True. I mean, sure, it kind of killed the moment, maybe, and it was a great game up to that. I mean, it really was.
It made it feel the memes of the league being scripted. It made it feel scripted.
Yeah.
In the moment when you see the play like that, it made it feel scripted.
But I mean, he grabbed the jersey. I mean, he held him.
But when you live, like, you saw, like,
I get it though.
I think we all were actually like, yeah, that's nothing. And then you threw the flag. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. This is how this game's gonna end on a 3rd and 4.
Exactly. But I mean,
I don't know.
What are you gonna do? I mean, I think there have been worse calls that have happened in history, so it's not that big of a deal. But yeah, that it happened on the biggest stage, kind of disappointing. But again, not complaining.
I mean, one call I can remember of just in recent history, you all remember the CJ Gardner-Johnson call with Saints-Rams in the NFC Championship game? That was a game where even Saints fans were calling for the And Nicole Roby Coleman, yes. The Saints fans were even calling for that game to be replayed. They thought that the call was that egregious, the fact that they made that call on that big of a stage.
To be fair, though, it was egregious.
It was, but yeah, but
horrible.
looking back at this play right here, so obviously even James Bradbury admitted he did hold him, but you relook at the route, you see Juju Smith-Schuster was going on the go route to the end zone and Patrick Mahomes overthrew it. So the argument is that James Bradbury, no matter how much he held him, that ball was never going to be caught for a touchdown. But like you said, you have to call. I guess it depends on the referee. If
I think what they called was wrong.
Because what I usually see in basketball is that more, typically in the NBA, more fouls get called in the regular season than the postseason. People feel that you should let them play. You should depend on the moment, you should let that go. But it all depends on the referee. And like James Bradbury said, he held him. So what that means is that Bradbury allowed the officials to decide the game. Not that say if he just didn't hold them, then the Eagles would have got the ball back. Could they have tied this? Could they have lost? Could they have tied it? Could the Eagles have won another game, win a touchdown? We'll never know. But, as a Giants fan, clearly I was not going for the Eagles. So this outcome doesn't really upset me, but I can just imagine that for even Eagles fans and for all football fans, it's just a disappointing way to end the game because it really was. I mean, it still is. It still is an all-time classic Super Bowl, but you think that it could have had an even more crazy ending. You think that we could have seen Jalen Hurts get the ball again because you remember the Kansas City Chiefs had a lot of momentum. We saw the Kadarius Toney touchdown. The Eagles got it like a free and out. Kadarius Toney had that huge punt return, and then they took an 8-point lead. But Jalen Hurts responded right back down the field, tying that game at 35. And still with 5 minutes left, the Chiefs were just able to run that clock out. The craziest part about it to me, though, is that now Jonathan Gannon, he had a pretty bad job there in the Super Bowl. He's now a head coach for the Arizona Cardinals. I'm not sure what they were thinking with that. I'm not sure how you can see that.
Colts now?
Yep, offensive Stain Station went to the Colts and Jonathan Gannon went to the Cardinals. I'm not sure what the Cardinals were doing there. I mean, personally, I would have hired Brian Flores, but that's a discussion for another day.
Flores got hired already.
Yeah, he's defensive coordinator from Minnesota, but I think that Brian Flores should be a head coach. But moving on, from that call, obviously, I think that you want to see the right calls get made, but you just hate to see a game end on a call. You want to see the players decided. You don't really want to see officials decided. But ultimately, the hold was there, so they called it. But I think the next thing we have to talk about is we have to look more from a bigger picture window. Are the Kansas City Chiefs the next dynasty in the NFL? How much more championships can we see this team win?
I mean, like the Patriots, as we remember, right? Tom Brady gets those first two Super Bowls, right? We were talking about this last week. Then there is that hiatus, there's that gap, and then he starts winning more at the end. It's tough to say if this is a dynasty because they had the Super Bowl a few years ago, then they made the Super Bowl again the year after, and now they won it again. So I guess it is a dynasty for sure. It definitely, of course, Chiefs dynasty, but in terms of the NFL in total, I guess it is because I don't think there's another team that has come close to this. I think the only two teams that have come this close in recent memory that are not the Patriots are the Eagles, and because they made it, and I guess even not for nothing, I'm not saying this team is a dynasty, but the Bengals, right, making it in the Super Bowl last year and now close this year.
Yeah.
Those are the only two other teams that I could think of that are close, unless there's something else I'm forgetting.
My thing with dynasties, I've had this talk before. My thing with dynasties are, do you have more than one generational player?
I think so.
Yes. Are they going to be there long term? Yes. The thing is, I don't think with Kansas City's cap situation that this dynasty could be sustainable. Now, my big problem with them is their aging defensive line. I don't think Frank Clark is a legend. He's fantastic. He's been with Kansas City for who knows how long, or however long he's been in the league. But you said New England. I would not bring it to that point yet.
Obviously. That was
but I wouldn't really something absolutely crazy. Like you saw what Brady had. Didn't he have Randy Moss one year?
Yeah, but he didn't win with him.
He didn't win with him. He went far in the playoffs with Randy Moss. He had players that elevated him more than what he already is. Travis Kelce does that. I don't see another player on the team really doing that. I think Chris Jones. That's a defensive player, but on the offensive side of the ball, for this to be a sustainable dynasty, he needs another weapon at wide receiver. I don't think like a Marquez Valdes-Scantling, Kadarius Toney, McCall Hardman's good. I don't think he's going to stay there long term either. But they need somebody. anybody that is somewhat, I'm going to say better than all three that they used in the Super Bowl. Like, not saying Tyreek Hill-esque, because you saw Brady work. He had freaking Julian Edelman. I don't know if he'd call him as like, let me ask you this. To continue my point, would you rather Julian Edelman or Tyreek Hill? It's a tough question, yeah. But my point is, he needs to have that wide receiver. If Tyreek Hill was still there, will always be my argument. If Tyreek Hill was still there, they'd be a dynasty right now. They're the start of a true dynasty because you have pieces that will be around there forever. Now, will Tyreek Hill re-sign with that contract that he has with the Dolphins? Hell no. Look at the bad contracts Kansas City has to deal with right now. They're going to have worse depending on what Kelsey's going to want eventually. So, and who knows what they're going to do with the defensive side of the ball with all the players they're getting. So, I think, could Kansas City move up in this year's draft and draft a wide receiver? Hell yeah. I think they should go for that. Because, I mean, their secondary still has maybe a flaw or two, but a wide receiver will cement them and really make it better, will make them more better than they already are to put themselves on a trajectory to be a true dynasty. That's the way I see it.
Of course. I mean, that's kind of how all dynasties, I think, are. I definitely see where you're coming from. In all sports, I mean, you got to have that core of core stars, and to keep it sustainable, you have to add on to that core constantly. And, they got it done with this team. But, of course, I always say, and I didn't come up with this, but I've always heard, if you're not getting better, you're getting worse. If you're not getting better, you're getting worse. So, of course, you're going to have to make moves. You're going to have to make improvements, and it's going to be difficult. But, yeah, I think they have a good core to have a sustainable dynasty.
I mean, you guys didn't even bring up Andy Reid either. It still seems like he's going to stay. It still seems like he's going to stay there for a few more years. And the Patriots dynasty at Bill Belichick, Andy Reid is probably the best offensive coach of this generation. So the Chiefs continuing to go ahead. I think that if you win next year, say they were able to repeat, be the first team since the Patriots to do that, then you're looking at a definite dynasty. But going forward for Kansas City, I think that it's just doing what you did because, the AFC is going to be tough going forward because you still have Buffalo, you have Cincinnati, you have Jacksonville emerging with Trevor Lawrence, you still have Justin Herbert in your own division. Even the Broncos went ahead and got Sean Payton to be their head coach trying to fix that team there. So there's going to be a lot of challenges, but I think before we wrap up for the NFL, we have to talk about the Eagles. Where do we think the Philadelphia Eagles go from here? How do you think their future looks like? Because they have a lot of impending free agents and their cap situation is looking interesting.
I don't know where they go. It's a spot you don't want to be in. I think it's the best way you can put it, but I think the best way to put it is there's nowhere. They're at that one point where they you can plateau and then just go nowhere possibly. I think that's the best way you can put it. They have the talent for sure. They have AJ Brown. They have Devontae Smith and Jalen Hurts. They have the pieces there. My issue with them is, do you really think that their defense is generational or has the right amount of pieces that will take them over the top? They're going to need to draft someone on defense.
They have a top 10 pick, though.
They have a top 10 pick. There are some defensive linemen that if you want to overhaul a little bit, trade one of them or lose one of them to free agency and draft somebody. Like, I think they can trade down. It's very possible they trade down. Though at the end of the day, your issue is going to be, to be honest with you, I think they can trade down to a team that needs a wide receiver. Because there's going to be guys like Quentin Johnson out of TCU, Jordan Addison out of USC, that are going to elevate themselves to get into that top 10, top 12 range. I think they have that potential. So you can see teams trade up. I think Houston could be trading up with Philadelphia as a possibility from their second first-round pick to have a little bit of a pick swap there and see if Houston wants to actually build a right team for once. But saying that, they're going to plateau, I think. I mean, you have to have that other piece. There's got to be some other piece on their team that can elevate them to not plateau and become better than they already are.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much not exactly what I was going to say, but I was going to say that focus on the defense. I mean, of course, Jason Kelsey's the name that you're hearing thrown around as one of the more popular Eagles, one of the more likable. He's been there for a while, right? But yeah, I think you might have to look into the draft for some defense because I don't know how you can sign everyone and as they have a difficult cap situation. I mean, I think they have to get younger. I mean, I feel like, of course, this defensive line, right? It was historic, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, great, but if you can't bring everyone back, so I think they have to look into the draft for sure.
Because a lot of those guys are getting up there in age. Because
Right.
Fletcher Cox is in his 30s, so is Brandon Graham. Even Darius Slay and James Bradbury, both already over 30. So you figure that Bradbury's going to walk. There's a chance that Kelsey retires. You just have to be concerned because for a lot of teams, the time where they maximize their most successes when their quarterback is on the rookie contract. But if Jalen Hurts is going to get paid $50 million a year, like is reported, I mean, sure, yes, he deserves the money, but is Philadelphia ever going to have as good of a roster as they did now? I don't know if we can ever say that. So, they're still going to be a competitive team because, just Jalen Hurts is too good of a quarterback. Sirianni's established himself as a coach, but you just really don't know. That's why it's important to take advantage of your opportunities. And that's really why, for the Philadelphia losing the Super Bowl, it hurt a lot for them because you don't know. It's not easy to get back there. There's a stat that the quarterbacks that have lost their first ever Super Bowl have never made it back or never won a championship, so still never seen that happen. So it's really hard to do. So going forward for Philadelphia, the NFC East should be tough if the Giants can stay the same way they were last year. If Dallas can be a factor, maybe Washington gets into the mix, but it's definitely not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy for Philadelphia. I mean, I'd say that the NFC is probably the more favorable conference to be in compared to the AFC because we don't really have a lot of true contenders. I mean, really, Philadelphia and San Francisco are the two that mainly stick out to you. We still need to see if another team rises up, but yeah, I think that's most of what I have to say for the Super Bowl. We have anything else before we wrap up?
No, let's move on.
I guess we move on then because the NBA has been a huge topic of discussion as of late. We have All-Star Weekend coming up this weekend. The All-Star games on Sunday. We have All-Star Saturday night, of course. So we haven't really talked a lot of NBA recently, so it's time to get into more of what happened in the first half. I guess to start off, we'll revisit our MVP talk because we made our predictions before the year started. If I remember correctly, Chris picked Jason Tatum to win MVP. I picked either John Moran or Zion. Robbie, who was your MVP pick?
Oh, Luka.
Luka, yes. So, but as of right now, it's a very intense competitive race. Actually, a lot of people are saying the front runner may once again be Nikola Jokic, looking for possibly a three-peat of MVPs. Be the first one to do that since Larry Bird in the '80s. But there's still a bunch of other contenders. You have Joel Embiid, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Luka Doncic, even Jason Tatum still in the mix too. So I guess the kind of interesting way to start off this discussion is who should be the MVP? Who's your guys' vote?
Dude, I mean, Nikola Jokic is unbelievable as a center, right? I had him in fantasy basketball for, don't think I had him this year, but past 2 years I had him. Unbelievable. Constantly dropping 60. I'm saying 60 fantasy points is the average for him. It's ridiculous. I mean, constantly the triple. They call him the walking triple double, right? But dude, I mean, it's not easy at all to win 3 in a row in the NBA for the MVP. I mean, LeBron never did it as good as his career has been, right? I mean, it's very difficult. It's very difficult to win back to back, let alone a three-peat. I mean, a guy who I was looking at is Luka Doncic. Luka Doncic. I mean, he's been insane for Dallas. I mean, I'm gonna be honest. I don't know Jason Tatum's exact numbers, but
I believe it's about 30 points a game.
I mean, he's definitely up there. That's incredible. Also, Boston being first place in the Eastern Conference.
Last night against Detroit.
Right.
I watched it.
So I mean, I guess I'm gonna say my pick is currently Luka Doncic. I as good as Nikola Jokic is, I can't see them giving him a three-peat. I don't know.
My problem with Luka, and I'm looking at the numbers, is his lack of ability to stay healthy. I mean, he hasn't played he's played in 70 games once. Now, granted, there was the COVID season and all that fun stuff. But looking at Luka's numbers, he's averaging 33.5 a game, shooting 50% with 8.8 boards and 8 assists. That is ridiculous.
I mean, yeah,
but I want to look at your pick, Mr. Tatum,
Right.
real quick. And we'll just look at Jason Tatum. I watched him last night. He had 30 plus last night. He looked great last night, by the way. He's averaging 38 and 8.5 and 4.5. I don't know. I liked when you said him in the beginning, like your actual MVP pick, because I mean, I was always in the beginning, I was debating between him and Luka. Where's my MVP debate? And then I knew you told me you were going to take him. So I'm like, I'm going to be original. I'm not going to take his guy. So, but a name I want to look out for is Joel Embiid. I think can be in the running for it this year. I think he has the potential to win it this year. He's going 33, 10, and 4 at the center position. So, granted, he's played less games than I believe both Tatum and Luka. That's the only one I'm concerned about is the games played. I don't know really. Wait, how many games would you think would be good enough to qualify for an MVP? 70?
Probably about there. I think it was 65 and 70.
65 and 70. Okay, that's fair. 65 to 70 minimum. Can Joel Embiid hit that? I don't know. He's at 45. I think there's a possibility he gets injured again. But then again, we can say that about any player in the league. But at the end of the day, I'm going to stick with Luka as well. I mean, I'm sticking with my pick, unlike Chris here. I am sticking with my pick.
I mean,
and I'm going to – it is difficult, though.
It is. It's just Luka's been incredible. He was injured for a little bit.
My only problem with Luka's conversation is how much will Kyrie have an impact on the hopes for his MVP?
Yeah, that is another thing.
And that's the main thing, though.
Something else. And that could help. That could definitely help Nikola Jokic's.
Yes, I think it's going to make Luka's chances worse.
Of course, with Nikola Jokic, it's not the points. It's everything. I mean, he just dropped a triple double. Like his last game, I'm pretty sure.
There you go. Yeah.
But, I mean, like it just does it constantly. It's incredible. Luka's. I mean, I couldn't see it past, but I mean, I know he's been incredible this season. Hasn't dropped less than like 25 past couple games.
I don't think so.
But yeah, Kyrie is going to come into the mix. So maybe Jason Tatum could
emerge from the shadows a little bit.
He's having an insane season too.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a conference.
I mean, Colin's picks. He picked Ja and Zion, which gave me that one look from you. If you remember, all the way back in October, we did the MLB playoffs, and there's like this one look that I think someone clipped or whatever, where I thought that weird look. I'm like, you're crazy. Talk about your picks, Colin, because they've been interesting.
Well, I think that both Memphis and New Orleans are still teams that have a lot of potential for the future. We saw New Orleans for a bit there was the first seed, but they've fallen off a bit. Memphis is still a very good basketball team currently right now, sitting at second in the Western Conference. But, I guess the numbers haven't really equated to the top guys. So let's take a look at the race real quick, the top contenders. So Nikola Jokic, he's currently averaging about 24 points and a triple-double. Now, you remember, averaging a triple-double was a huge reason that's why Russell Westbrook got that award back in 2017. But on top of that, Jokic is doing that with the first seed in the West. But I just can't imagine Jokic getting the free on MVPs. I think really that you have to be an all-time great discussion to get that. And while I think Jokic is a very good player, I don't see him as a guy who can really single-handedly will his team to a championship because he's never been that guy. But the other contenders, Luka Doncic, I think he's probably the most fun player in the league to watch personally. But the fact of the matter remains is that he currently sits at around 500. The Mavericks are 31 and 29, seventh place in the Western Conference. And those other cases where other guys did win those awards, really that happened as a result of them having by far the best stats in the league. But Luka does not really have that. So for that reason, I think that he won't get the award. Going around, I think that Tatum, sure, they have the best record in the NBA. He's putting up great numbers, but I'm going to say my vote right now is Giannis. I think it is because I believe that Giannis Antetokounmpo is still the best player in the league. And, we've seen a bunch of other times before where, LeBron James wasn't always a scoring leader every season, but he still got the award. Personally, my vote's Giannis. Now, I don't know if he's going to get it. They might give it to Luka. They might give it to Tatum. I think all those guys are really deserving. Really, that whole top five of Jokic, Luka, Embiid. I think I
think Embiid's a guy who also.
Embiid too. I didn't get into him yet. I feel like he should have got the award last year over Jokic. I think he was really deserving of it. But like Robbie said, you don't know if he's going to be able to stay healthy. But out of all those guys, I think Giannis is overall the best player. So he's my most valuable player. But we'll see what they'll do. But I'm really excited to see what happens going forward.
There's one other thing I want to talk about. Let's talk about some of the surprising teams in the first half because the All-Star break coming up. We might as well go over some surprises in the first half. And my surprise is going to be It's a fun one. I am going with. I'm sorry if this is unoriginal or if you guys are gonna take it. I'm gonna go at the boys from the northern parts of California. I'm going with Sacramento. I thought one of you guys was gonna go with it, but I'm taking it anyway. I don't care. The Sacramento Kings. They are 32-25, sitting in third in the Western Conference, led by. I mean, you look at this roster. How the hell are they in third? I thought when they traded Tyrese, I thought they were stupid. Boy, was I wrong. Sabonis is here along with I don't know, Harrison Barnes and De'Aaron Fox. How the hell are they here? De'Aaron Fox, let's look at him real quick. 24.8 points, 4 boards, 6 assists. That's solid for him. I mean, he's been injured a lot. I mean, you look at him, you look at a guy like a Sabonis. That's another guy to get on this team. He's averaging 18, 12, 18, almost 19, 12, and almost 7 assists from Lithuania. You look at it, like they have some underrated young guys in this team as well. So, I think this team will make a minimum play-in. I thought they were going to do more at the deadline. I'm disappointed by their deadline.
I mean,
they should have done more, but I think they needed to do more to compete with a Memphis or a Denver. They needed to do more, and it's very disappointing to see. But my other sleeper team, it's gonna be New Orleans. They've fallen off I mean, the West is very balanced. You're looking from 10th. I'm gonna go all the way down to 13th to freaking third. It's separated by 5 games. How? What is this? It's possible Sacramento goes into a lottery pick again. And they're in third right now. I've never seen that before. I mean, Chris, what's your underrated pick or a sleeper team from this year?
I don't even know. It's extremely unoriginal. I just don't even think I could call them underrated. I mean, I guess the Knicks. I mean,
the Knicks. I'll count the Knicks.
I mean, they're kind of like you expect them to be like in the play-in, like
minimum play-in,
right? Or maximum play-in, if anything.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I mean, they're right in the middle of the Eastern. They're 6th in the Eastern Conference, and again, we talked about this last week. How right? It's there's no superstar running this team. There really hasn't been for a very long time with the New York Knicks, and they just beat the Hawks yesterday, and they're in a 3-game winning streak. They're gonna play the Wizards.
10th place in the East, Wizards.
Right? I mean, they're constantly throwing up like 120 points the past 3 games, constantly getting over 120 points. I mean, really, the offense is clicking. Julius has been very good.
No, who's been good for them? Josh Hart. Right. Josh Hart's been good.
Right?
And Jalen Brunson's been playing well. I've been following them a little bit.
We talked about that last week.
That little Villanova Wildcats.
RJ Barrett, you'd still like to see him come into the fold.
How much are you paying him again? Isn't he on a long contract now? No. Not yet?
He got an extension.
Yeah, he's not worth an extension. Then again, we've said that about De'Aaron Fox twice, and because of his contract, by the way, is paid more than RJ Barrett. But De'Aaron Fox is making a bag, and he's actually, for once, finally staying healthy back in Sacramento and doing something. We're hoping the same for RJ. I do think eventually they need to know what role they're going to play him in. So I think they want to play him in like 65 different spots. I want because you're speaking to the Knicks, I want your quick take on this. What do you do with Thibodeau? Do you fire him at the end of the year? Because there's been I know there's me not watching the NBA much. There's been some questionable moments with Thibodeau. What do you do?
I mean, I think it comes down to what happens down the stretch. Definitely, I was looking at their schedule. It's of course, all schedules are mixed, but it's a lot more of the top teams in the NBA as opposed to the bottom feeders.
Yeah.
So I mean, really, I think the expectations from fans was to make the play-in, and if they play well, in these big games against the Celtics and even a game, I saw there's a game against the Kings coming up and the Cavaliers. They beat these teams at least. Like if they maybe maintain a plus 500 winning percentage in these games, I mean, they're looking at potentially just qualifying for the playoffs just in general.
Yeah.
And I mean, we'll see what happens there. And now Tom Thibodeau becomes a coach who's taken this team to 2 playoff runs. And of course, the question becomes what happens there. But yeah, I think it's a lot of mismanaging players, guys getting more time than they should, but they're playing really well. I mean,
you don't know what to do.
yeah, it's a difficult situation. It really, I mean, it is. It's produced better results than other coaches in recent Knicks history.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
From the small bit I've
and-
followed,
but yeah, I mean,
agree.
if there is a coach out there, of course it wouldn't. It's not the worst thing in the world. It's just a coach. But yeah, I'm not sure. It really comes down to how they do down the stretch.
Colin, who is your underrated team or sleeper team for this NBA season so far?
I mean, really looking at the stands, I feel it's kind of expected. So kind of what I want to do here is I kind of want to highlight the disappointing teams because
I have a disappointing team. It's actually very
I think Cleveland's a really fun team to watch, but I think we kind of felt like they were going to be good. We felt like they were kind of break out. But I mean, what is going on with Golden State? I mean, currently
no one does.
29-29. You figure that if you win the championship, you're at the top of the NBA. You think you're going to automatically go back there, but they've been struggling. It's been tough for them. And sure, you have your problems in terms of we remember that game where Steph Curry got ejected because Jordan Poole's like a shotty for his mouth guard. Really weird season for Golden State, but everyone kind of expects them to be able to kick into high gear once they get to the postseason, but. I'm not really sure. I mean, the NBA regular season is a very long slug, so it's not uncommon to see teams, kind of have their difficulties. But I mean, another team that's had kind of difficulties is the Atlanta Hawks. People really thought they were going to be, an exciting, interesting team. You figure that pairing of Trae Young and DeJounte Murray, you think that you'd be a huge player in the Eastern Conference, but that duo has kind of struggled a bit, even to the point where rumors are starting to come out about Trae Young maybe wanting out in the future. We have to see what happens there, but San Antonio has their picks for a while, but yeah, the Atlanta Hawks and the Golden State Warriors really kind of stick out as being a little underwhelming. I mean, but you really talked about how kind of loaded this Western Conference is. I mean, every single team in the Western Conference outside of the Houston Rockets and my San Antonio Spurs still have a chance of making the playoffs. All of them do, but yeah, I think that the Western Conference is going to be fascinating to watch. I can't really say that any team has really been a sleeper or a surprise because I feel like everyone's kind of been where we expected them to be, but there definitely has been a lot of disappointments. For sure.
Are you gonna say? Okay.
My disappointment, Chicago.
Oh, yeah.
I literally grabbed the mic so you didn't take them. But
I was not gonna take them actually.
But Chicago, you look at the Bulls, 26-32. A squad that they've got some good, solid talent. You got the duo of Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan. You got Vucevic down low. You have depth at guard. You have Kobe White and Lonzo. Lonzo hasn't played in a while. But when you even not fully healthy, I think this team, I'm disappointed by their deadline as well. They should have done a lot more, but we can go into that another time. But you look at how this team is built around 2 players. Then again, a lot of NBA teams are built around 2 players, Lakers. But I don't know what to think about them because they have the talent to win, I think, 40 plus games with just LaVine and DeMar. You add in a Kobe White, who I think still has a ton of potential out of originally from North Carolina. You add Vucevic. You add eventually healthy Lonzo Ball. Depth. They have 0 depth. That's kind of hilarious, but they have 0 depth. But if you had to name one more disappointing team, does Portland count for this?
I mean, I guess.
Maybe. Dame can only carry you so far. I think that's the best way to put it. Dame can only carry you so far. But Chris, do you have an?
I mean, like I wasn't gonna say because I think this team is kind of in like a situation where it's not. I mean, they are in the playoff mix, but of course the trade deadline really hurts the team. The Nets. So what do we think about the Nets? Did they make the playoffs?
You see, I wanted to actually get into the Kevin Durant trade a little bit more, but I mean, really, just that Nets team, that is one of the most failed experiments I've ever seen. I actually remember, writing an article back in my junior year about the Brooklyn Nets and that super team, really how this was supposed to be a team that wins multiple championships. When you have Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, James Harden, you think that you're going to be a dynasty. You think you're at least going to win one championship. The fact that they only played, what was it, a combined 19 games together, and it just ended. I mean, what a disappointment. I can't even imagine being a Nets fan right now. I mean, James Harden, there's that whole saga where, it looked like he was gaining weight, so he wasn't really working out so he can get traded. He left. Obviously, I can't even get into all the Kyrie Irving stuff. It would take too much time. He left.
That
And
should be a full episode.
Kevin Durant demanded a trade over last summer, but they basically said, no, you're too good. We're not going to do it. But I mean, really just the most confusing part to me is how the fact that they traded, Kyrie Irving for kind of more of a win now package, right? You got back Finney Smith, you got back Dinwiddie, but then you traded Kevin Durant for kind of more of a rebuilding package where they got all these first round picks from Phoenix. So I'm not really sure what they're doing. I mean, they're still a fun team to watch, I think. I mean, in terms of, because, you saw Mikal Bridges drop 45 points just the other night. I think that they're still a team who, is going to be in the play-in mix. I don't think they're bad enough as to where they'd fall completely out of the picture. They're still going to be a competitive team for this season with Dinwiddie, Bridges, Cam Johnson, Nicholas Claxton, who I like.
Isn't
But,
Cam Thomas?
Cam Thomas, too. He had a stretch where he had, I believe it was 3 straight 40-point games. Really going off there. But I think we have to talk more about Phoenix because we didn't really get to go into them a lot last week. We mostly talked about the Lakers. How far can this Phoenix Suns team go? I think that
they're not gonna win it. I still don't think they win it this year.
Really?
Give me the money.
I still don't think they win it. You look at what they have. They have a ton of talented players. It's incredible what they have. However, this is the Phoenix Suns. I don't think they win it all. Here's why. You have so many talented players. Who the hell is going to shoot the ball on the last possession of a game?
Kevin Durant.
You're going to force it to Kevin Durant. What does that say about Devin Booker? What do you think he does? Do you think Devin Booker would want to be, after being the leading scorer for this team for however long he's been here, would want to get overshadowed by Kevin Durant? I wouldn't, personally. I think that could cause a lot of unrest for whatever the reason. Do I think it was the right trade? I didn't think. Did Phoenix have to make this trade? I guess.
Yeah.
To take that next step
It's Kevin Durant.
with the West. I mean, it's Kevin Durant. Yeah.
I mean,
And he is him, but at the end of the day, they're not winning it. Sorry, Phoenix. You're not winning it. You can clip it, do all you want. You are not winning this thing. Hey, I will clip this. And if I get it wrong, it will be an Instagram post of me I think we should hold on. Comment down below if you want an Instagram post of us just having like a million wrong picks, because we do have a good amount of them. Justin Fields, but even me violating Justin Fields, over 1,000 rushing yards. But I think if you want to count one more team disappointing, I don't know, Toronto, I guess. I mean, there's not really disappointing though.
I think other than that, it's
Indiana's in the mix. What the hell is Washington doing? Why do they keep Bradley Beal? Like, I've said this about them for years. Trade this man. He will thrive somewhere else. You'll get like 65 good players. Like, you'll get like players and first round picks. Maybe they could have traded for, I don't know. That would be really, like, imagine they could have gotten like a Kevin Durant-esque package with how many players, young talents, and first round picks they could have got. Who would trade for him? I have no idea. Maybe like Indiana, I feel like would do it. I don't know. That's me personally. But I feel like someone would trade for Bradley. Could have traded for Bradley Beal, given their future. But at the end of the day, no one budged. Washington's in disarray, and they fire coaches as many times the Jets have used starting quarterbacks. It's like a carousel. Like, you have a good head coach, your team sucks. Your team's now good, and your head coach is bad. So I think Washington they need a clear direction, and not just to be in. I'm not even gonna say in the mix. They should have blown it up a lot more. They needed to, and they failed. If I was a Wizards fan, I would be calling for their GM's head, because what they have done, what they've refused to do, is a problem. You saw the Nets do it, and they're in fifth. You could have not have blown it up if you were in 10th. tank for Wembanyama. That's what they should have done.
I actually want to get into the one, but
Even if the Spurs and the Rockets are doing it better, who cares? You can lose out and get Wembanyama. Colin wants to talk about Wembanyama. What do you got for us?
Yeah, so I just want to, before we get into our final predictions, what we think is going to happen for the rest of the season, I kind of want to talk a little bit about the race for Wembanyama, because currently we have 4 big contenders right now, and that is San Antonio Spurs, Houston Rockets, Charlotte Hornets, and the Detroit Pistons. Now, these 4 teams have really separated themselves from the rest. Let's take a look at these records. So currently, in 4th place, we have the Charlotte Hornets with a record of 17-40.
Imagine he plays with LaMelo. That would be stupid.
I mean, it's crazy that Charlotte fell off like this. They're always a play-in team. I think he's been hurt for a period. I think he's eventually come back.
Games and he's played one off.
Yeah, but the team's really that bad outside of LaMelo. I mean, I know they lost Miles Bridges, but
I have a dialogue about this.
If your leading scorer is Terry Rozier, go tank for the freaking first pick. Go ahead. That would be hilarious. Because look who's on that roster. They have like PJ Washington, Terry Rozier. Who else? Help me here.
Mason Plumlee. He's actually been pretty solid.
I
in
know.
all fairness.
When your 3rd best player is Mason Plumlee, go tank. Just tank at this point. That's what they've been trying to do. But the next team I want to dive into, the Rockets, I feel bad.
Well, actually, I think we got to go in order. So next up in 3rd place for Wembanyama is the Detroit Pistons.
Oh, the Pistons are in third now?
The Pistons are in 3rd.
Ah.
Yes. So
we watched. Who I got to watch last night in my friend's dorm. We watched them play the Celtics. I don't know. I don't want them to get the first pick because I feel bad for Jalen Duran, who's playing underrated as hell. Now, granted, he's been injury prone a little bit, and I saw some centers hitting like 20, hit a crazy amount of threes last night. But it would be a very weird fit, and that would cause.
I mean, you'd have him and Cade Cunningham, 2 number 1 overall picks.
Yeah, but it would cause players to get traded. And I don't think they really want to do that. And
then in 2nd place, San Antonio Spurs, currently at 14-45.
Can they decide what they're doing?
Losing 14 games in a row after Devin Vassell went out.
After all that talk I had about Devin Vassell back in November and December, it proves how much this team really needed Devin Vassell.
Yeah, no kidding.
I talked so much crap about Devin Vassell because I still think he's kind of mid. But he's looking good because he played for the goddamn Spurs. Well, that's the only reason. I'm kidding. Devin Vassell is actually kind of nice. I think he's pretty decent. He's a decent scorer. San Antonio, I said they should do stuff at the deadline. They actually kind of listened to me. I think they could have. They got another 1st round pick for Jakob.
Got a bunch of seconds for Josh Richardson. I think that Toronto just really wanted Jakob back.
Those 2nd round picks can turn into a 1st round pick if they move up on draft night.
It's very possible. I mean, but obviously being a fan, I'm really just praying we can get Victor. But
that's not
I think we. Oh, really? Who's your prediction?
Go to the Rockets.
But see, my problem with Houston is that I feel like they've tanked a lot. You already have Jalen Green. You already have Jabari Smith. They've been at the top of the lottery for a bit. I think that the NBA. I think they want to send them to San Antonio. Maybe that's just me being a little biased.
Hold on.
Oh, yeah?
We've heard before, for those who have not delved into I've done a paper on the NBA draft lottery possibly being rigged. If you go all the way back to the inaugural one, when Patrick Ewing was the 1st pick, you look at how it was done. It was the envelopes. I know, ancient, not with ping pong balls, not with whatever the hell they use for it now.
Very top secret process.
Envelope. I know. It's crazy.
Very top secret.
No, every draft lottery is like that now. It's stupid. Don't make it secretive. It makes it sound rigged. Like the NHL one, I watched it last year. I wanted the Devils to get the first, or like whoever the hell they was to get the 1st pick. Montreal got the 1st pick, and they hosted the damn thing. But besides the point, what was I? I don't even know. Like, wait.
You're talking about the draft lottery.
Yeah, the draft lottery. You go with Patrick Ewing's the 1st pick. He played around the area, and who gets the 1st pick? The dented card of the New York Knicks.
Yep.
It's the draft lottery has been seen rigged with the Cavs getting $1 million number 1 overall picks. Shout out Anthony Bennett for no reason at all. And I think he's pretty good at basketball. His name's Kyrie Irving, and Andrew Wiggins. Now, granted, 2 of those 3 players did not fit well on this basketball team. Besides the point, I do think Houston will. My prediction: Houston gets the 1st pick. It's going to happen again. This is how you build a dynasty. Tank, get players you want. I think bold prediction right now, they could have their like a good power forward center duo. I think they can be good for a long time if they're together for a while. Like who are like those two guys in the Spurs I'm thinking of? Like Duncan and Robinson. I think it can be a Duncan and Robinson. I'm dead serious. And you got Jalen Green at point guard, who's kind of nice. Who knows? Maybe they can. Maybe if they tank this year, they could be a playing team next year if they get those three players together. Get them depth, please. Go spend your money on something right and get like 2-year depth players. But what are your thoughts on the Rockets, Colin, or like all this BS?
Well, of course, I think that it would pain me to see a lot more years of tanking. I know Detroit and Houston, they're teams that are very committed to their tanks. This is just our first year doing it. But,
Orlando should be tanking like crazy.
Well, Orlando's actually been a little bit better. They're starting to get their core a little bit better. I think Paulo Banchero, he's been very great for them.
3 games out of a playing spot.
Yep, 3 games out of a playing spot. So I think Orlando's out of the picture. I think it really just comes down to those 4 teams. But we saw in the past with the Zion draft lottery, people think that was rigged because Adam Silver intentionally wanted to send Zion to a small market instead of the Knicks to kind of avoid people saying that it was rigged. So, I think that in that sense, if they keep up with that pattern, I think that Victor is a pretty good fit in San Antonio. The Spurs have a long history of kind of developing those foreign players. Getting him possibly for a couple of years with Popovich, I think would be really good. Obviously, the Spurs need a center now since they traded Jakob Poeltl. Currently, our starting center is Zach Collins. I don't think they can really stay that way. Hoping for Victor. We'll see what happens. But before we end off for the NBA,
breaking news.
The Bucks have hired an offensive coordinator, ladies and gentlemen. Dave Canales. Who is this man?
I mean, I heard that.
Who is?
I thought I heard that news like yesterday. I think.
I don't know, but I didn't see it on my feed at all till Ian Rappaport just announced it. Sorry for interrupting you right there, Colin, but he is officially the new offensive coordinator for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Hopefully, he knows how to call a damn offense. Because you looked at Brian Leftwich, I think that's how you say his name. He was kind of disappointing. Remember when he was in the head coaching mix last year? Does anyone remember this? He almost got the job in Jacksonville 2 years ago and last year. And then he was also in the mix for the Jets job. I hated him. Thank God we didn't get him because Robert Saleh is a genius in the making. I mean, he saw his timeout BS crap from earlier in the year, but besides the point, I think this hire is an interesting one. Imagine Kellen Moore went to the Bucks. He would have gone to the team that he beat in the playoffs. But at the end of the day, Colin, after that quick part of the interruption moment, back to your regularly scheduled question from Colin.
So I say we get into our NBA Finals predictions here at the midway point of the season. I think it's only right we pick the 2 teams who we think are going to go to the finals and who our champions are. So I'll start us off right here. So I'm going to go for...
This will be our question for the week because we didn't get anything.
Yep, I'm going to go for a little bit of a rematch here. I'm going to go for Milwaukee Bucks and Phoenix Suns. I do think that, I think that this Eastern Conference is going to come down to Milwaukee and Boston. My biggest thing is that I feel that, once again, Giannis is clearly the best player on the floor in this series. They also had a huge move getting Jay Crowder. Well, I think it's going to be a huge wing to help out, with their depth, really a free and D guy. I like Milwaukee. I think that they really lost in a close 7-game series to Boston last year. They lost, in 7 to Brooklyn before. I don't think they're going to lose another close series again. I think this time they'll win it. I have them going to the finals. And overall, the Western Conference, I mean, I still don't trust Denver. We've never seen them really break out. Memphis is still young. I think that it is the Phoenix Suns now. Originally my original pick was the Los Angeles Clippers, but they haven't really done much to kind of inspire me. Kawhi Leonard hasn't been as good. I think that Phoenix, just Chris Paul, he's not going to be really asked to do a lot, but he still can be a distributor. Still a guy who's really not going to care if he gets, he's not going to really care if he only scores 8 points a night. So I think that Chris Paul, Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, DeAndre Ayton, I think that team's just too talented to not go to the finals. And I'm going to say a rematch. I'm going to say Milwaukee wins it again, just like 2021. Milwaukee Bucks NBA champions over the Phoenix Suns.
Honestly,
mine's different than all of it. It's going to be different than all of it.
It's very difficult, right? Because there's a lot that goes into it, right? Milwaukee Bucks are very enticing. They haven't been there in a few years. Boston 2 years ago they were there. Boston was just there last year. I do also agree it'll come down to those two. I think I'm also gonna go with the Bucks. I went with the Celtics last year. I was right about that. It's crazy because Boston really been lighting the league on fire. I mean, they really, especially the East. I mean, dominant, absolutely dominant. It seems like they're constantly dropping 120 to 130 every single night. But I really think the one team that can outscore them in a series, outplay them in general, is the Bucks. I mean, I really think you put them in a 7-game series against each other. I think the Bucks will come back with with more revenge and searching for revenge and wanting to get back to the finals. I think Giannis is going to lead them right back there. With the West, it's very difficult. I'm gonna go with I think the Memphis Grizzlies.
God, yeah, that's what I was gonna say. That's what I was gonna say. Dang it.
John Morant's phenomenal, right? That team is great. They're in second place right now. They were close to making it last year, but ultimately fell short. The Golden State Warriors. But I think this is finally their year, right? The Warriors are not there. The Mavericks are kind of behind, playing 500, close to 500. As you said with the Nuggets, right? You can't really trust them, but I think they're enticing for this year. And I think the only other team is really the Suns. I mean, getting there 2 years ago and adding Kevin Durant, and I think that's definitely the favorite. I think they are the favorites in the West, as Luca said. But I'm gonna go with the young dynamic team.
So what's your final prediction is
Memphis versus Milwaukee.
Okay.
Who wins?
Milwaukee
wins. I'm going different, somewhat. Both of you guys. I'm going to be going with Memphis out of the West and out of the East. So I did. No.
Oh, okay.
Out of the East, I'm split between Boston and Philadelphia. I am not thinking Milwaukee gets out of it. I am going with the unoriginal pick of Philly. I'm just kidding. It's not Philly. I mean, they've made it and lost. I think Philly
lost in the finals too.
Oh my God, that would be the great. I think everyone would clown Philadelphia for that.
Everyone's already clowning.
Oh, they are clowning them, but they'd be clowned even more. Because, to be honest, Chris, being a soccer fan, do people really care about the Philadelphia Union losing in the MLS Cup final?
I mean, everyone's different, but no,
not really,
still,
right?
I mean, the Phillies.
Yeah, the Phillies,
losing,
New England.
You didn't expect that team to get there.
And you know what? Here's my pick. I'm just kidding. It's not Philly. It's going to be Boston, because why not? They're really good at this whole basketball thing. And then out of the West, I'm going to go with Memphis. Your NBA champions, the Memphis Grizzlies, not Boston. Again, Jason Tatum will win MVP, though, of the regular season. John Morant wins finals MVP. Any last comments before we sign off from any of you guys?
Not really. I mean, looking forward to next week. I mean, with the NFL season ending, there is the NFL draft coming up in April. The NBA is getting into the All-Star break.
Baseball spring training coming up.
Baseball is really going to be the sport that kind of takes over this.
I'm ready for that. Colin, you got something for us?
I kind of, because obviously I think it's one of the more, I think NBA All-Star Weekend's maybe the most fun All-Star out of all the sports, my personal opinion. So, we have the 3-point contest coming up. I'm going to list off the names here. We have Tyrese Halliburton, Hero, Buddy Hield, Kevin Huerter, Damian Lillard, Julius Randle, Lauri Markkanen, and Jason Tatum. I mean, I want to see Julius Randle win it. I don't think he will, but probably the safest bet's Damian Lillard, I'd say.
Probably.
I'll make my pick.
I wanted to say Damian Lillard. I'm going to go with the underrated pick again. I'm going to all underrated picks because anything can happen. Lauri Markkanen wins something. Lauri Markkanen wins. Yeah, Utah, congratulations. You're not going to win it.
Dunk contest isn't looking good.
Dunk contest is horrible. Do it right and get John Morant, Aaron Gordon, Zach LaVine. Who's a fourth?
Zion.
No. What?
Yeah,
No.
Zion would be-
He's injured. He would get injured playing in the freaking dunk contest.
You know what? I'm going to go with Tyrese Halliburton.
Oh, you're going Halliburton. I like that.
I-
That was my other
Another
pick. That was my other
underrated
pick. That was my other pick.
I'd love to see Julius Randle.
Chris, can you name off the dunk contest participants for us?
That's-
Can you, Colin? You can name them off, actually. I'll give you the mic. Colin's got the mic.
Kenyon Martin Jr., Mac McClung, a G Leaguer, Trey Murphy III, and Jericho Sims in the New York Knicks.
I saw him a lot of Matt McClung in college. Why the hell is he there?
Because no one wants to do it.
What? Why? Who wants to be the next Zach LaVine? Remember, Zach LaVine did absolutely nothing before he did the first dunk contest, and then he became really good at basketball. Aaron Gordon, I don't know. He's
still a pretty good player.
He's pretty mid now, but he used to be good at basketball, playing for the Magic. But I want to go Matt McClung, but I'm not picking Matt McClung at Texas Tech. I can't. I don't like Texas Tech. Who were the other two? Kenyon Martin Jr. and what was the other one?
Trey Murphy, Jericho Sims.
Who the hell is Trey
That's
Murphy?
what I'm saying. I don't really know.
I feel like he's a Spurs
Go
player.
Jericho
I feel like he's a
Sims.
Spurs player. I'm gonna go with Matt McClung.
Oh, yeah,
Let's
please.
go.
Texas
Let's
Tech,
go.
I
G League. Matt McClung. Is there anyone?
Jericho
Is
Sims.
there the other one? Isn't there like one more contest?
Skills competition. That's like just not really big of a deal.
We'll pick it anyway, just to finish it off.
Let me look it up.
Colin's got the mic to finish us off.
Okay, so the skills competition. There's 3 separate teams of free. We have team.
teams now.
Yeah, it's
What?
it's 3 separate teams of free. We have Team Antetokounmpo, Giannis, Thanasis, and Alex Antetokounmpo versus Team Jazz, Jordan Clarkson, Walker Kessler, Colin Sexton, and then the rookie team, Paulo Banchero, Jaden Ivey, Jabari Smith.
Okay, this is easy. Team. I'm just kidding. It's gonna be the rookies. I'm gonna go with the rookies. Jaden Ivey's kind of nice. Paulo's good at basketball, and the Thanasis is horrible. Was it Thanasis, Alex, and Giannis?
Yeah.
Thanasis is not good enough. I think Thanasis is worse than all of them. And quickly, Chris, your pick.
I'll go with the rookies also.
He's going to go with the rookies. All right. You're going with the Jazz teams. No one's picking the Antetokounmpos, but unfortunately, that's all the time we have for this week. Thank you guys for tuning to episode 15. It's been a lot of fun so far. Comment or go on our Instagram and say what if you want any different segments. If you want us to talk about anything else, totally random about sports. But for all that, for Colin, Chris, and myself, thank you guys for watching. Make sure you like and follow our Instagram at Into the Stands, and we'll see you guys next week.